So welcome to this Coffee with the Editor. For me, there is not a better example of integrated public transport other than the Gautrain system, which integrates the rail, the bus, first mile, last mile, and really is a good showcase of what a public transport system should look like. When we talk about delivering a world-class service in respect of integrated public transport, health and safety become a critical component of this, not just in employees, but passengers as well. So for this Coffee with the Editor, I'm joined by Arnold. How have you adapted your operations to cater in the post-COVID environment?
The dawn of COVID presented many challenges for organization, not just our own organization as Bombela Operating Company, but for many organizations around the globe. And key to that was the fact that during COVID, we had to learn to operate in unprecedented manners, in that we're dealing with a virus and the virus that was affecting the public, and we deal with the public on a day-to-day basis. We transport thousands and thousands of passengers. So it was quite critical for us to really to learn while we ride, or learn while we fly, in the sense that we had to find out or how exactly do we still make the public transport to be safer, but while we're still making sure that we can operate without necessarily endangering people's lives. So obviously, based on the regulations of the day, there was quite a whole lot of things like your social distancing that has to take place, and that also had an impact in how the passengers will need to be arranged, either from the stations themselves or inside the trains. So meaning that you could have less passengers at any given time, because now the space, that there needed to be space between the various passengers. But then coupled with that, the regulations of the day taught us that we had to sort of increase our cleanliness and hygiene protocols within the stations. Whereas what becomes very interesting for us, that was not necessarily a shock to the system, because as Bombela Operating Company, we really rely on the highest cleanliness and hygiene standards for our stations. So the only things that we really had to add was additional things like adding your sanitizers and your social distancing. Whereas when it comes to really the cleanliness, it is something that we were so much used to do, because an average customer or passenger within our stations, they are already accustomed to that high standard of cleanliness and hygiene, which in itself promote their health and well-being when they are using the system.
So post-COVID, have you maintained those protocols?
This is really the kind of standard that is really expected throughout our operations. It is what we measure ourselves against, and we really want to be rated amongst the best. And in fact, anybody that has ever used any of our facilities, really, they can attest to the fact that really that is something that we maintain on an ongoing basis, because the trains don't stop operating when the last train stopped, but we've got operations running 24 hours, making sure that we maintain those kind of standards. So it is really an ongoing business to us.
And then for me, the safety in the public transport environment is so critical. I think it's key to when people make the decision to use public transport as part of their daily lives. So with safety being such a critical cornerstone in public transport, can you delve into BOC's dedication to passenger safety and share some insights on its track record in ensuring safe operations, safe and secure transit?
And I think indeed safety is really at the cornerstone of everything else that we do as Bombela Operating Company. For number one, safety is just not a challenge for us as an operator and maintainer of the train, or as Bombela Operating Company, but safety in general. It is a challenge in the society that we live in, specifically in South Africa. However, operating and maintaining an efficient train service like we do, we had to be really quite abreast of anything that was ever done before, because we really strongly believe that most of our passengers use the train service because of the record of safety that we really have. And we ensure the record of safety in the sense that not only are the trains reliable and safe, but we actually use technology as well as physical guards to guard the entire infrastructure And in fact, even inside the trains at any given time, there will always be a security personnel ensuring that, the passengers are at comfort. Even if you were to perhaps leave any of your belongings, you are 9 out of 10 times likely to can get your possessions back to yourself because of the kind of safety that we have. So it is really a record that we have really kept. More specifically, it is not just a record that we keep within the trains or within the stations, but this goes along our entire infrastructure. If some of the key infrastructure is stolen, for example, we have seen with some of the operators wherein they've got incidents wherein cables are being stolen, part of the infrastructure is stolen, that really becomes an inconvenience to the passengers. Whereas we have really come up with means using technology as well as various means to ensure that this infrastructure is really well guarded, because we really operate a closed system, and that way we are able to guarantee our passengers and our customers an efficient and safe, reliable service at any given time.
Well, I was just about to ask you, what kind of technology are you making use of to be that safe, reliable, predictable service?
Yeah, there is quite a lot of technologies that we use. Obviously, when you speak about the issues of technology, especially in the security side, we wouldn't like to divulge a lot, because as much as you can speak about a lot, there is a lot of other people that are listening to this. So you don't want everybody to know what exactly is all these things that we use, but we've got it all. Drone services, watching our system, our network on an ongoing basis, and we've got people that on 24-hour basis, they are monitoring our entire lines. We've got the personnel as well that are moving up and down our infrastructure just to make sure that we can ensure that safety. But rest assured that every time you climb into that train, you will arrive at your destination safely.
Fantastic. Then can you talk to me about the safety and training protocols that you have at BOC, to ensure that your staff are well trained to handle any safety issues and the priorities around safety?
Yeah. No, thank you very much for that great question, because I really take great pride in talking about the health and safety, especially with regards to what we do for our staff, because our staff are really at the front. They represent what Bombela Operating Company is about. So now, to ensure that our staff are well equipped and ready to can face all the challenges that can be experienced by anyone operating and maintaining the service, obviously we have to make sure that they are really well trained. So now when we're doing training, we don't see training as a destination, but we see training as something that needs to be done on an ongoing basis. So it is an ongoing thing. We are a learning organization that keep empowering our teams, teaching them new skills in order to can respond to complex situations. And when we do this training, we don't just only look at the health and safety from how it is going to be experienced by our employees, but it also about what about everyone else that is working on the system? How about our passenger experience of this health and safety? But it goes well further than that, because at the end of the day, you've got operators, from drivers and conductors that have to operate these trains. Now, they need to be alert and sharp at any given time. So the training that they receive is not just about health and safety awareness or operational training. We understand that they are drivers. We go into details of understanding the human factors that really has to be taken into consideration when you're operating these trains. Over and above that, we also look at psychological trainings, as well as looking at such thing as fatigue management, because it only takes one personnel that is not ready and capable or ready at that particular time that things could really go sour or you can have a mishap. Therefore, training becomes really quite ongoing, but we make sure that it really gets involved and there's quite a cycle to it, so that we make sure that people really get retrained to make sure that they remain above the bar.
And I'm impressed that you've taken the human factors into it. So many people actually overlook that how the human factors impact one's everyday in the work environment, and obviously that has quite a serious safety implication in your environment. I think it's quite important also to look at how you guys address and get feedback from the general public in terms of safety critical issues. How do you engage with the public?
This is actually quite interesting, because especially when you're working in an environment like ours, wherein you're dealing with the public, it becomes much easier when you're working with your own teams, because you see them every day. you can plan with them, you can train them as much as you need. Whereas when you're dealing with the public transport, your engagement with the public, you might see somebody today, it might be their first, it might be their last. And there are those that you really see quite often. However, what we do is we really take benefits from using various technological avenues in making sure that, we can get feedback from the experiences of these passengers that are using the trains that we operate. Through that feedback, we are going to gain insights or intelligence in terms of what are the kind of things that we can improve, that we can enhance their experience while they are using the trains. And we really take that feedback that we receive quite seriously, in the sense that on an ongoing basis, whatever feedback, no matter how little it is, as an organization that we believe that we are dynamic and agile, we always adjust ourselves to make sure that we can improve the customer experience. Because at the end of the day, ours is to make sure that we can have a safe and reliable experience for all our customers.
What forthcoming safety innovations or protocols is the BOC going to be introducing soon?
As a learning organization, we would like to improve how we do things, because when we do things better, then the experience of our service can be improved as well. So in that regard, we are not just Bombela Operating Company. We fall under an organization called the RATP Development Group. Although we are really based in South Africa, we are able to tap into some of the great technologies that is already being explored and used elsewhere around the world. So there is really quite a lot that is in the pipeline, and then we really want to leverage this kind of technology that comes from RATP Dev with such things as your behavioral-based safety programs, wherein we can ensure that the people that are in the front line, as well as our passengers, they actually become part of the solutions in giving us big data in order for us to can understand how people are understanding our service. So there is quite a lot of technologies that is to be deployed. For example, there is something that we call Safe Tracker, which really integrate our operational standards and procedures with our day-to-day operational health and safety procedures. And that in itself, it really gives us a great advantage in us understanding how the service is really being run.
Let's talk about crisis management, because God forbid anything went wrong. How prepared are you guys to handle unforeseen circumstances or a crisis?
The unfortunate part in real life is that unfortunately things do go wrong, whether we like it or not. Accidents do happen, but we think that really the best organizations are really measured on how they actually respond when such events has happened. Similarly, it can be the same analogy when any crisis might have taken place. So now, as an organization, Bombela Operating Company really is a certified organization in some of the international standards. For example, we are certified for ISO 9001, the quality management standard. We are certified in ISO 14001, which is the environmental management standard, as well as ISO 45001, which is the occupational health and safety management standard. Now, these are not the only standard that we really certified against. We also have got a standard that is called EFQM, but we've also, as an operator, have got the railway safety permit that we get through the railway safety regulator. Now, the reason why I'm giving that kind of a context is because out of each and every one of those standards that I've just mentioned, there is a clear expectation that we are expected to demonstrate that we are able to can respond to any crisis that our business can actually be subjected to. And in that regard, we have developed a proper working business continuity plan, which is really exercised properly within our own teams to make sure that they are better prepared. And not only do we do that, we actually partner with a couple of other third parties, because we don't necessarily have all the resources in-house. There are other third parties external to our organization that we partner with in areas where we think that perhaps we might be found short or lacking in case of a crisis. So we partner with them to say that in case we've got such kind of events, they are able to can respond and assist us in advising us in a professional manner so that we can have a seamless transition from a crisis to bring back things into normalcy.
So I'm sure you've simulated that kind of scenario.
Yes. Now, indeed, actually, that really becomes part of our standard operating practices. In any given year, we do a multiple of what we call drills, and we actually take a couple of different scenarios to make sure that we can go and drill this kind of scenarios so that when we have an actual event, we are able to can respond. What is of interest is that when we're doing these drills, it is not something that only just involves our teams or our employees. We actually involve some of the third parties. It could be our contractors. We involve the local emergency management services. We involve the fire departments. We involve the different ambulance services. So we really involve anyone that can become a player in case of a crisis to make sure that when we're exercising, we exercise with them. That gives us really two benefits. Benefit number one is that all the role players end up understanding and knowing our system better. But number two, making sure that all the role players know exactly what to do in event of any crisis that we might have to be faced with.
Let's talk about skills transfer from, the RATP Dev through to BOC. I mean, there must be quite a lot of continuous learning that takes place in skills transfer. So how is that prioritized within this local office?
As a Bombela Operating Company, we continually improve our employee attraction, development, as well as retention strategies. And this we do it through various skill development activities that are informed by our business needs, as well as our objectives that we really review from time to time. And we actually, on an annual basis, have what we call a skills development plan. And in terms of that skill development plan, which is actually part of our strategy, which is informed by our own performance management as well as outcomes, we actually review the talent of our teams. And based on that talent, we are able to can go and provide required skills where we really think that they are really falling short. And in fact, any of our team members actually have got an individual development plan wherein those skill gaps really needs to be closed by making sure that they are equipped with the relevant either training or the relevant experience if it's just a matter of exposure. And this is not something that we really do as an island. As part of the RATP development group, we really tap a lot into the RATP group in terms of some of the best practice where skills development is concerned. So we collaborate a lot with RATP group through the various modes. We've got our own e-learning programs that is really quite bespoke and customized, and then specific employees, depending on their roles, we really tailor specific trainings to make sure that they are really equipped with those kind of skills and they are able to can respond to whatever the challenges of operating and maintaining a world-class training can present to them.
Sustainability. Hey, environmental sustainability issues. And this falls, I think, part of your portfolio, especially when we talk about sustainable mobility. There are obviously many levels to bringing that all under one ribbon. But what is your role and your opinion on this?
Every time we talk about anything subject that has got to touch on Mother Earth, it is really an important subject, because the fundamental question that we ask ourselves every day as Bombela Operating Company is, what kind of earth do we want to leave for the future generation? And with that question in mind, this is really exactly the kind of question that inform the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis regarding how we really operate and maintain the trains that we operate. Really, as a point of priority, we really take cognizance of all the aspects. In other words, any matter that has got a certain element of an adverse impact, whether it's little or small, to the environment. We make sure that that really gets identified, it gets monitored, but more specifically, it really gets measured on an ongoing basis. We don't just do this because of our licensing and operational conditions, but we do it because we really care. It can be issues to do with water. There is quite a lot of water that might be used within the system, especially if you go from underneath the tunnels where we really operate. So we really analyze and assess this kind of water to make sure that the quality of the water is not necessarily being adversely impacted by our operations. And this goes further by even looking at either the rivers and the streams that are within the operational area. What kind of change is happening from upstream towards downstream that may be impacted by the operations that we have. We've got boreholes all around the network wherein we actually make sure that continuously samples are being taken to make sure that we are not necessarily depreciating the quality of the natural resource. That goes as far as not just about managing the water, but we look at the issues of our use of electricity, for example, of which I understand that it is really a bigger problem in the country. However, we really try and find means to say that how can we really minimize our carbon footprint in everything else that we do. And of interest is really just to say that by the nature of just operating and maintaining and getting passengers inside the train, we believe that over and above all the other exercises that we are doing, by simply just using the trains, we believe that we are really helping the world to become better in terms of the carbon footprint, because we know that there's quite thousands of vehicles that we are making sure that they park. They don't necessarily use their diesel or their fuel, but then they are on the train, which is much more environmental efficient when it comes to its impact to the environment. In South Africa and many parts of Africa at large, when one speaks about public transport, it is viewed in as if it is a mode of transport for the poor. Whereas if you go to the first world countries, you will realize that public transport like trains and buses is actually an efficient mode of transportation that is really used by all citizens, irrespective of the social standing, by simply trying to get our mindset from getting out of our own cars and starting to use public transport, provided it is efficient and it is safe. We are really becoming responsible citizens. Public transportation is by no means for the poor, it is for everyone, and it is really our way of saying, let's all of us get into those trains.
Well, I actually couldn't have said it better. Public transport, using trains, it really is for everybody.